Manuel Alcaraz. All these guys, of course, will be strongly in contention, but how will they cope with what are actually fairly British conditions? It's wet, it's very, very windy, slippery. Marcel Jastrebo there, of course, he's competed many times, the former European champion in the UK, so he knows something about these conditions. At the moment, in the championship, Dougie Lampkin, of course, clean away at the top of the table. That's number 9, Bruno Camozzi. The big, burly Frenchman, he at present 9th in the championship, as indeed he finished last year. So Camozzi at least consistent after the first round. Can he improve on that here in the rain? Everybody getting prepared for surprisingly wet weather and, of course, needing global vision. And there's a bit of global vision. 30 kilometres round, the 15 sections, 30 kilometres per lap per day. And that's pretty tricky for keeping yourself within time. Albert Cabestany, number 14, yet another of the youngsters. This is Jastrebo again getting himself together. You can see from the waterproofs and the degree of wrapping up that we've got here that these guys are expecting the weather to stay nasty. This is Marc Colomet, and this Salvador Garcia. Colomet's right-hand man, who's urging him, hopefully, onto his second World Championship title. That's what they want. They last won it in 1996. They've lost out to Lampkin for the last 2 years. Marc Colomet knows he's up against it, and he's particularly up against this man. Just turned 23, from Silsden in West Yorkshire, a member of a legendary family of motorcyclists. Dougie Lampkin here with his father, Martin, a former world, in fact, the first world champion, and his cousin Dossa Lampkin, a rather unkind reference to James, who is also a very capable trials rider. Marc Colomet then taking a look at section 3. And here is Marcel Jastrebo, his 20-year-old compatriot in that section. Jastrebo rides a similar machine, the Montesa Cota, Spanish machine, of course, with a Japanese Honda engine. But just look how very English these conditions are. And look how they catch out Jastrebo straight away, even though it's relatively dry under the trees there. Now, Lampkin looks concerned at that, although he's obviously extremely used to these very English conditions. Martin, just carrying out a little personal adjustment of the parts there, is taking a very concerned look at this section 3. How will he decide to tackle it? First, we have a look at number 2, Colomet. Garcia telling him just where he wants him to be. Remember, the guys officially supposed to keep going, always maintaining forward motion. That clenched fist in the background indicates that he's clean so far. Oh, and brilliantly finding grip at the top where Marcel Jastrebo didn't. So Colomet, so far, looking quite good. Garcia's pearls of wisdom. Oh, but he's got to drop a foot on his way up there, and that's 1 mark down as he's poised at the top, but breaks 3, and just the 1 mark down on section 3. Lampkin, how will he cope? He is on the Beta, the Florence-built machine. Martin Lampkin and cousin James there to dispense the advice to him. Clean so far, terrific power, low down power from that factory Beta engine. Now Lampkin trickles.
Watch your front end here!
Watch your front end here, says his dad.
Here. Perfect!
And up he goes. See if he can get it clean. Oh, and he has to drop a long leg, which actually goes outside of the tapes, but is nonetheless just 1 mark down. And here's the man from the Isle of Man, Steve Colley, 7th in the world last year. But he made an abysmal start in France, in Spain, with a couple of 13th places. Not what we expect for the Maxman, who's now 27 years old, his 10th year on the world trials scene. He riding for the Andorra Jordi Taras Gas team, the Barcelona-built Spanish bike. And who's this man in the wimpy overalls? It's none other than the burly Bruno Camozzi, sticking down a leg there, footing his way through these very, very English moss-covered rocks under the trees here outside Baltar in Portugal. Looking splendidly piroued in those yellow baggies. You can see how cold the wind is for how well wrapped up these guys are against the weather. Jordi Pasquet, the reigning European champion, the European champ of 1998, one of dropping a foot there though. here on section 6. Yet another of the young Spaniards looking to get himself a solid platform on the world stage, but that's a couple of marks dropped here on section 6 for Pasqua on the Montesa. And an even younger Adam Raga riding a Gasgas, one of the other young Spanish up-and-coming boys. By this time on Saturday, the weather is beginning to change. The sun's breaking through. It's almost beginning to look like Portugal should. But Raga's struggling a bit with these rocks. He won't be very familiar with moss-covered, slippery stuff like this. Martin Lampkin casting a concerned look over that section, as indeed is his son Doug. He's not the only son, of course. There's a kid brother called Harry, who's a very decent motocrosser. Mark Colomé, 24 years old now. Comes from Olot in Spain, in the area which is almost the Yorkshire of Spanish trials. Look how neat and tidily he's springing that Honda engine Montesa up there. So Colomé on good form. And there he is, exiting section 6. That's his punch card. His mark for that section gets punched into there. And of course it totals up at the end of the day, and the man with the least number of marks lost is your winner. And it's usually turning out to be this guy at the moment, because he won cleanly the first 2 days in Spain. Incidentally, that equalled the legendary Belgian Eddie Lejeune's record of 33 wins in World Championship competition. Can Dougie Lampkin go one better here in Portugal? He's certainly looking on exceptionally good form, Lampkin. It may have been raining for the last 3 days, and raining hard and cold, but that hasn't stopped him practicing. He's been out every day. He looks around to make sure. He looks a little concerned that he might have got... that he might have lost a point there. He's just going back to check with his old man to see that he hasn't been docked any points that he feels he shouldn't have lost. Dougie Lampkin coming back to get his punch card seen to. Obviously decided that he's only lost what he wanted to lose, which is probably 0. Donato Miglio there, I beg your pardon. His helper from Beta going past, having kept an eye on things. Mark Friescher on his Gasgas, struggling a little bit in these extremely non-Spanish conditions. Yet another of that young contingent of Spaniards. They just keep producing them. Look how wet and nasty that is. Number 4 there, that balding gentleman, former European champion Malcolm Rathmel, who is looking after his Scorpa rider Graham Jarvis. He is Marcel Jastribo, 1995 European champion, 20 years old, burning bright blue eyes, dropping 1 mark there in section 10. Jastribo on the Spanish Federation team Montesa. Graham Jarvis keeping an eye on him there, just behind him, seeing where he's going. And here's our first glimpse of the very aggressive Japanese rider, Takahisa Fujinami. He rides the Honda. And a fairly brutal machine it is, especially in Fujigas's hand. He was nicknamed Fujigas because of his extreme use of throttle. But he was looking pretty tidy there through section 10. And Dougie Lampkin getting full throttle from his dad. And Martin obviously not impressed with his son's efforts. He may not be losing points, but he's obviously running out of time. 2 minutes per section is all that's allowed, remember? And here's Mark Colomé. Salvador Garcia may not be his father, but I tell you, he gives him just as hard a time when things start to go wrong. Colomé has time to look round at Salvador as if to say, what are you shouting at me for now? Getting very, very wet. You can see how much rain they've had here. Oh, Colomé just survives at that drop and gets out for a rather brilliant and insisting, yes, I did it with nothing there, didn't I? Now we move on to Lampkin on section 11, the next section. Here goes Dougie Lampkin. Up that section 11. Brilliant, brilliant performance, much appreciated by the Portuguese crowd. They're gathered round here, rather like the crowds around Hawkston Park in Shropshire, often a venue for World Championship rounds in the UK. Oh, and a foot down very early on that climb for Colomé. Colomé needing a bit of help. That stuff is very soft, difficult to get grip when you're digging in as quickly as that. And of course it stayed in some places deceptively dry underneath the trees. Not, however, when you get lower down there. This, section 11, Mark Colomé on the Montesa. Splashes through the stream, urges the Honda-engined Montesa up there. Remember, 1996 world champion, twice second since then to Dougie Lampkin. Lampkin turning into a bit of a bogeyman from the Spaniard. Now, right at the end of the day, the sunshine coming out, it's all turning rather pleasant. Amos Bilbao, the 30-year-old veteran teammate of Mark Colomé's, emerging from the final section of the day, and emerging, in fact, with just 69 points lost, and a very, very good fourth place for Amos. And fourth in the championship last year, Graham Jarvis from Canterbury in Kent, riding the French Scorper, 79 points, 10 points further down than Bilbao, nets Graham sixth place on the day. And Colomé has been struggling a little bit, 64 points down. That means just 5 points ahead of Bilbao. He'll end up in third place for the day, and actually behind Fujinami. So the Japanese champion outdoes the Spanish champion here in Portugal. A bit of a surprise there. We expect Colomé to be the most consistent challenger to Dougie Lampkin's crown, of course. And here is Lampkin. Now, he's been running a bit short of time. It's been pretty tricky for the guys to finish on time, and Lampkin, a bit of a sprint, he says, towards the end. And there he is, actually glancing at his watch, just making sure that he's got in without any time penalties on the overall scheme of things. Fujinami enjoys reliving some of those moments that he's had around the course, and was obviously thrilled to have nicked second place there, which shoves him up to third in the championship. Colomé then, third with 64 points lost. Fujinami 52, but a great victory on the first day for Lampkin. Cold, it was still damp, but at least it wasn't raining here at Baltar. The second round of the World Trials Championship, Dougie Lampkin having won the first round. 34 Grand Prix wins to his credit now. Can he make it 35? Who's to say he won't? Here we are, cleaning things down just after a little bit of practice. Oh, and here we have Tanaka. Tanaka is just 16-year-old, and he rides a beater, similar to Dougie Lampkin's, but he has it set up with such enormous power that he spends most of his time crashing. I'm sure he'll get better. According to Martin Lampkin, incidentally, there's Diego Bossis, 11th in the world last year, the 32-year-old Italian veteran, number 11. See if he can have a better second day than first. I was saying Tanaka at the other end of the scale. That's number 13, Kabastani, gets brutally butchered from the back there up on the stage. I beg your pardon, Mark Friescher that was. Number 7 up there, Steve Colley. Tanaka, who's a bit of a crashing machine at the moment, according to Dougie Lampkin's dad, Martin. And there's Lampkin and Colomé. Will Colomé wake up and start to challenge Lampkin today? Who knows? One man who probably won't is that 16-year-old Tanaka-san. He's got balls like a lion and a brain half the size, according to Martin Lampkin, but he might get better yet. This is Amos Bilbao, who at 30 still has plenty of surprises to offer us. Fourth on the first day, remember, almost matching number 2, his teammate Mark Colomé. There's the punch card going on. Not always easy to get over a helmet, but of course you have to have it with you because that's what counts your accumulating score. So Mark Colomé prepares to go out for a day 2 on which the organisers have eased about 5 sections. Here's Fujinami, who of course sets off after Colomé because you go in reverse order of the first day's results, and 20-year-old Fujinami, the current Japanese champion, he was second on day 1, so he's second last, and Dougie Lampkin, number 1 behind him, is the man who follows him away. So Lampkin, 34 wins to his name. I'm just 23 years old. Last month, a few pensive moments. He knows that if they've made the sections a little bit easier, then it's going to make it easier for the opposition. Not necessarily for him, because he cleans so much anyway. Remember, he won by 20 clear points He's dropped you've dropped 20 points less than Fujinami on the first day. That's quite a fantastic difference. And here's the first man we see in action on day 2, a member of the Andorra Gas team, number 14, Albert Cabestany. In fact, Cabestany on his way to a brilliant start, just a dozen points down on the first day, putting him joint second with Fujinami. So Cabestany on good form, very, very good form as he cleans section 3 there. And here is Fujigas. Now just listen to the revs he uses on the same climb, clean so far. Listen to this. This is a Honda engine on full poke. No lack of rev there. Fujigas living up to his name and giving it some stick on section 3. Whoa, and locking the wheel up as he plunges down. Not quite busting the tapes at the bottom, which of course he's got to stay inside. But the Fujigas technique works. He's clean. Now Colomé. He's picking his way through perhaps. Garcia, look, just checking where he wants him to be. This is where I want your back wheel to be before you set off here. But Colomé, with the similar Honda engine to the bike of Fujinami, gets himself well stuck. Now, how long is he allowed to hover around here? James Lampkin not looking impressed with that at all at the top there. And there's little, of course, Portugal is next door to Spain, perhaps a little lenient marking here. And just look at him stamping on that back brake with his right foot to try and hold the bike right there. But his foot's down, the bike keeps slipping back a few millimeters. Well, in my books, this would be a 5 by now, but perhaps he's getting a little generous marking here. Oh, both feet off, heaving the machine. It's going to be a miracle if he gets out of this. Dougie Lampkin comes to have a look, number 1, because he's yet to do this section. And Dougie must be thinking, surely to goodness they've 5'd him by now, because remember, if you fail a section, you drop 5 marks. But Colomé forces his way out. A round of applause from the spectators. And he drops another foot, but of course that doesn't matter now, except that he's run out of time. He's gone over the 2-minute time limit, and that's a 5 for Mark Colomé, whether he likes it or not. So Lampkin knows that Colomé's dropped a really vital 5 on section 3 on the second day. Perfect, as ever, shouts his dad. And you'll notice there, Lampkin, realising how deep that trench has gone, especially after Colomé has dug it out for him, drops a precautionary foot because he knows that's just 1 mark down for him, against 5 for Mark. Ooh, eases it up beyond where he dropped 1 leg on the Saturday, so that's a good move for Lampkin. Now Marcel Justribo on section 6 again. And although it's a slightly drier, easier section 6 than it was yesterday, Marcel still has to drop that foot. Number 14, Cabestany. Cabestany, a brilliant first lap for him. Ooh, showing that he really can make a mark on the world scene this year. Here's a man, look at that precipitous drop. You don't want to be making too many mistakes when you're going down there, do you? And remember, cameras always make things look less steep than they actually are. Douglas Lampkin. Yet another in the amazing sequence of Lampkins that kicked off back in the 1950s with his Uncle Arthur, a great Works PSA motocrosser and trials rider. Colomé. El Prodigio, they nicknamed him when he first broke at 15, a relatively late age, out of the world of cycle trials into the motorized version. This second lap of the Sunday turning out to be a very, very tight one indeed. Lampkin and Colomé riding brilliant races, I almost said. Well, you could call them races, but it's a race about points and against the clock. Fujigas on section 8. Oh, yes! Terrific performance from the Japanese champion, edging his way to the top of that climb. Woo! The crowd liked that. The frustrating thing about trials, of course, you often have to come straight back down here. Look at that step up there, and you've got to keep between those markers, which he does. A brilliant ride by Fujinami in section 8. Graham Jarvis, 6th on the first day, struggling a little bit on the second. The very, very quiet boy from Canterbury. That's 3 down already in this section 8. Jarvis hitting the step. Oh, and struggling again. Oh, and he's outside it. The front wheel went over the tape. Jarvis looks anxiously up towards the observer. He knows in his heart that he's 5'd that one. So Jarvis on his way, in fact, to an 8th place finish on 45 points lost on day 2. Just 1 mark behind Jose Manuel Alcaraz. So it's not such a good second day for the lad who finished 4th in the World Championship last year. But a good steaming second day for Lampkin and the beater. Oh, just has to drop a foot there. Didn't quite make it to the top as Fujigas did in section 8. But safe over the ledge. And safe out. Just 1 down for Lampkin. It's a tightrope. This second day is proving much, much tighter with some of these sections that bit easier.
Yes.
Colomé. Oh. Brilliantly urging the Montes Robo. Has he made it? Yes! He touches the tape but doesn't break it. Oh, but 2 feet down at once. That's 2 marks gone in. Oh, Salvador Garcia shouting at the observers to say, no, that was just 1, but that looked like both feet down to me. Colomé urgently out of section 8. It's getting tighter and tighter. But I think we've seen the critical loss when he really messed up section 3. And here we are, section 12. Amos Bilbao, 4th on the first day, drops to 6th on day 2. The fiery little 30-year-old. Not too happy with himself there. So near the exit, damn it, shouldn't have done that. And here's Grimble, Graham Jarvis on the scorper. Malcolm Rathmell, by the hair's certainly gone pretty quickly this last year or so, Malcolm. Oh, and look at those, both feet down together for the Scorper rider. And he looks well miffed with himself there. 2 marks lost at once, and that actually cost him 7th place on the second day. But Mark Colomé, what a brilliant second lap. The second lap here, Colomé has lost 3 points, and there's one of them. Just 3 points, that was the third one. Almost matching Lampkin's 2. An astonishing second lap performance. Remember, Fujinami lost 17 and Gabastani 25. Here's Lampkin then, relieved to have cleaned section 13, the toughest of the day, and that ensures victory for the Englishman. Just 14 marks lost altogether, with that amazing 2 points down on lap 2. And Colomé just 3 points down on lap 2. But his first lap of 16 means 19 points altogether. A consoling pat on the back for Salvador Garcia. He knows that they haven't won yet again, but at least they've improved to second place overall. Which means that Colomé, second in the championship, but now 16 points behind that man number 1, Dougie Lampkin. Colomé there, 64 points total now in the championship. Lampkin, an absolutely unblemished 80, and Fujinami now 3rd in the championship with 58. So he's a challenger this year, no doubt about that. Graham Jarvis is 7th in the championship with 36 points, and Steve Colley 18 points in 10th place. I'm Jack Bernicle. Hope you've enjoyed our coverage from Portugal. We'll be with you with the next round from Belgium. Whatever you do, don't miss it.
Joaquin Hindren.